Hello there, so we're going to do the Ghost of Christmas Past today. So just like normal, I'm going to go through what my four quotes that I would say. I've actually got a couple of extras on this one. There's a bit of extra information for you on this one. But I'm going to go through the four main quotes I'd use in my essay. I'm going to go through the layers of interpretations I would have, and I've color coded it so you can see where it matches the mark scheme. Right, so if our examiner said, how does Dickens portray the ghost of Christmas past? There's a couple of things I would want to be saying. First of all, this ghost represents Scrooge's past, and he also shows that Scrooge's journey into his past is one of contradictions. This ghost, as we're going to see shortly, this ghost is a walking juxtaposition. There's two extremes, two opposites, in a variety of different ways. So therefore, that reflects the contradictions of Scrooge's past. He pities yet savours himself, and he both appreciates but rejects the lessons of the past as well. Really, it's Dickens' way of showing the fickle nature of nostalgia, that when we look back into our past, we attach emotions to it. We see the good, we see the bad, we see the things we treasure, we see the things we hate, and the bits in the middle seem to pass us by. So, what points do I simply have to make? Well, first of all, I need to make the point that this arrival of this ghost shows nice and clear that Scrooge is not yet ready for the ghost message, not ready yet to take on board what needs to happen to make him a better person. Then we see, as mentioned previously, the contradictory appearance, and for example, our quote for that, we've got white as if with age, but he is of the tenderest bloom. We've also got the things that the ghost shows Scrooge, and I picked a quote from the most painful of the visions that he sees, which is when his girlfriend, Belle, leaves him, and she picks an absolute bombshell of a dumping line there, "I release you." And then at the end, we come back to this idea of light, and once again, it's too bright for Scrooge. Once again, he wants it to go, but once again, he cannot. And we're going to talk about the symbolism and significance of that shortly. So, our first quote: when the ghost of Christmas Past turns up, Scrooge begged him to be covered. Now, this spirit is painfully bright in terms of his light. So, and as we've already discussed previously, light is a universal literature symbol for hope and guidance. Where there is light, there is hope. So Scrooge wishing for the light to be out shows he's not yet recognising his need for his redemption. He's not yet ready for the ghost's message. We've got the word begged. Someone who's begging is powerless, and so Scrooge is powerless against the necessity of this message to look after each other. And so the need of the great many who need looking after vastly outweighs the selfish desires of one person. We've got the start of a cyclical structure here, so this is the start. And as I mentioned previously, Scrooge rejects the light at the start and at the end. However, both times he fails to turn off this light, fails to make the light go away. So no matter what stage of our life, no matter whether at the start or at the end, no matter our personal feelings of anger or frustration or hate, there is still a hope for us all, a hope that never goes out. And then finally, we've got this kind of contradicting satisfaction that comes with light, because on one side, as I just talked about, we've got light that is being rejected, and we don't want this light. But then as he goes along his journey, he sees other light that he does like, and one of them is when he goes to Fezziwig's party, and he's described as bright a ballroom as you would desire to see. Now that light's okay, he enjoys being there, he wants to stay there, he takes satisfaction out of revisiting that memory in his life. So we accept the guidance when it's attached to joy and pleasure, but the reality of our world is that this is not the case, and the message may then be more difficult but no less essential. Okay, let's look a little bit closer at how the ghost of Christmas Past is presented. Now this is a ghost of two extremes. The first extreme is in terms of its age. 1 minute, 1 second it's white with age, and the next second it's in tenderest bloom. So we've got that extremes, those two extremities in terms of age. We've also got those extremities there between winter and spring. We've got white, the colour of snow and winter, and then we've got bloom, what we associate with spring. So this ghost is a representation of the extremities of our memories. We associate memories with joy or pain. We look in our past through young eyes, but with a wise head. And therefore, when we are looking back with our nostalgic lens, and when we're looking back at our past and how it's shaped us, we don't remember, or we don't pick out the day-to-day, mundane, average stuff. The things that have shaped and defined who we are the moments of great happiness, but then the moments of great sorrow. And we see that in the things that the ghost takes Scrooge to see. Let's look a little bit closer at that word bloom. So bloom matches very nicely with the description of the summer flowers on the trim of the ghost's dress. Now bloom, summer flowers, they are symbols of new life and beauty, and they grow from old roots that were already in the ground. So that's a representation of how from our past we can find a new beauty and a new birth. Let's look at that word white as well, white as if with age. I think it's really interesting to use the words as if, because there's no guarantee it's age. So therefore that colour of innocence and purity, well, that can be associated both with age and people who are young. So it doesn't matter what point in your life you are in, you can still be pure, you can still be innocent if that's what you choose. And then let's look at the bloom bits, the tenderest bloom. Now Scrooge and Dickens both had a bloom in their childhood. They both knew happiness. They both knew times when there was joy. Dickens, Dickens, that was before his dad got put in prison. He was enjoying being out in the countryside. He enjoyed going to his school. He enjoyed learning. And then his bloom, just like the bloom of the flowers, it died off and it was replaced by something barren and empty, because he ended up having to go work in the factories and pay off his father's debts to get him out of jail. Scrooge as well, he has moments of happiness at Fezziwigs, but he also, those moments of joy were replaced by something empty. And just like bloom, it comes, it's temporary, and then when it's gone, it can't be replaced. Now I'm going to share with you one of my favourite little quotes now, which is when the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge to see him in his childhood, and he's reading a story about Robinson Crusoe, Friday and Ali Baba, and Scrooge is beside himself. He's well excited to see him reading about these characters and reading about his old friends that he knew at school. Now, I think this is a nice little set of quotes that you can use for all sorts of things. The Ghost Christmas Past, Scrooge's Redemption, childhood, like lots of different things. So let's look at the characters, and I think it's really clever that Dickens chose these three characters. First of all, he's chosen Ali Baba. Now, the story of Ali Baba is him and his 40 thieves found a cave of wonders, loads and loads of money, but rather than share it with his 40 mates, he killed them all off and he kept it all for himself. We've got Robinson Crusoe, who lived alone on a desert island and he was completely isolated. And then we've got Friday, who worked loyally for Crusoe, even though Crusoe treated him really, really horribly. Now we've got three fictional characters here from Scrooge's youth that reflect the Scrooge and the Cratchit of older age. Scrooge keeps all the money for himself, he gets rid of his competition, and he lives alone and isolated. Whereas Cratchit is working loyally for him, even though he's being treated really, really badly. Now, what's key is Scrooge starts grizzling when he sees these. He gets a bit teary. He starts welling up a little bit. Now, that could show any number of things. I've just put some ideas here, really, and you'll have your own thoughts and your own conclusions. Why is Scrooge crying? Is it that he's realising how lonely he was then, and now still how lonely he is now? Is it that he's realised that the seeds for the lonely and despairing life he now leads were sown in his youth when he was reading about these characters? Or, and this is what I would think, I think he's looking at these characters, and when he was a kid he was so excited to read them because their lives seemed so fascinating and exciting and so much better than a lonely boy sitting in school on his own. But actually, now he can see himself and Cratchit in their stories. He's despairing that the reality of his childhood hero's life is actually the pain that he bears today. Now let's go, in terms of pain, let's now get to the proper pain, which is when Scrooge gets dumped by Belle. Now, the Ghost of Christmas Past makes him watch this, and Scrooge begs him not to, begs the ghost to let him take him away, but the ghost is insistent, and he makes Scrooge watch it. Now, she uses the phrase, "I release you." Now, that's really ironic, because in releasing him to be free of her love and commitment to her, he's actually shackling himself to a life of emptiness and loneliness. It's a really loaded word, that release, and there's loads of things to say about it. That's obviously the first one. Now, that emptiness and loneliness, Scrooge says it himself. When he then sees Belle and her family, he talks about how much he would love a child as a springtime in the haggard winter of his life. Like he longs for a kid, he longs for the joy, he longs for the happiness that comes with a family. Now, that release, again, so there's loads to say about it. Here we go, some more. So a release is, if someone's being released, that means they're being released from a burden or a punishment. A prisoner is released, or a slave is released. Now, Belle is saying that Belle is releasing Scrooge from that burden, but that burden of their relationship and the burden of love also comes with it the joy and the belonging, which he also loses in being released from the difficult pit of love, the commitment, the faith, the truth, the love, the kindness that comes with it. We've also got that idea how release completely goes at odds with what Jacob Marley was talking about earlier. Jacob Marley he's been covered in chains. He's an image of captivity and restriction. And Jacob Marley is preaching for Scrooge to release himself from the chain that he forges in life. And actually, that release is the very opposite of Belle's release. Belle thinks she's doing the right thing in releasing Scrooge, but actually, Jacob Marley's definition of release would have been to have remained true to your love, to prioritise the people around you, to love your family, and to put those at the front of your life rather than your money. Now, it's also really key, and I've got another slide to show you this in a moment, but this scene takes place in a cold and snowy setting. Now, if we look at a few other situations when this happens, throughout the Ghost of Christmas Past journey with Scrooge, the times of hurt, the times of pain, the times of isolation, they are cold and frosty moments. When the times of where he sees joy, where he sees happiness in Fezziwig's party and in Belle's new family Christmas, there's warmth, there's comfort. Now, that can show, for me, that's using pathetic fallacy to show the clear contrast between the moments of the past that hurt and that are cold and that are painful, and the moments of the past that we attach joy and warmth and happiness to. We talked at the start about how this ghost, their appearance reflects the juxtapositions in our memories, and here through the weather and the temperature, we also see those juxtapositions in those memories. And my final quote would be this one. So Scrooge had enough at this point. Seeing Belle and her happy, loving family was the last straw for him, and he takes the metal kind of cone thing that comes with a Victorian candle, and he attempts to extinguish the light that the Ghost of Christmas Past brings, but he can't. It streams from under it, an unbroken flood. Now, him attacking this light, him trying to put the light out, shows he's trying to fight the redemption that this ghost is trying to bring for Scrooge. He's not okay yet, he's not comfortable enough to face the pain of the past, and therefore he's not yet able to then redeem himself to be a better version of Scrooge. But this light is inextinguishable, it doesn't go out. Now, that shows that the symbol of hope, because light always symbolises hope, it's stronger than Scrooge's anger and resentment, and it will always remain. I'd also like to attach that point to this cyclical structure of the Ghost of Christmas Past, because when the Ghost of Christmas Past turned up, the light was too bright at the start, and now the Ghost of Christmas Past is leaving, the light is too bright at the end as well. Now, both of those things show that no matter the pain or the anger, there is always hope for a change. So in terms of the cyclical structure, no matter where Scrooge is on his journey of redemption, no matter where he is in terms of his joy or his pain, there is a hope for him to change. And the fact that the light is inextinguishable, the fact that the light is there all the way through it, again, there is always hope for change. My last point I'll be making is the word flood, an unbroken flood. Nice metaphor. Floods can't be stopped and they consume everything in their way. If a flood goes into your house is destroyed, it's ruined. So Scrooge's moment of redemption is coming, it is on its way, and he can't fight it off. That flood that he is, that symbolic flood of the light on the floor reflects the flood of his redemption that is on its way to consume him and take him on his way. The old Scrooge is going to be drowning in that flood. The old Scrooge will be consumed by the Spirit's lessons, and out of the flood will emerge a better version of himself.